Hello, 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 and what is going on, everybody? It is Master of the TDS, and I'm joined by my lovely wife,
WritingRaven.
and we're back for another episode of Psycho-Synopsis.
Yes, we are.
The segment where we summarize all the Psycho for you. 3 main topics from the last week, all summarized into one video for you to enjoy and consume at your leisure.
You're welcome. So let's get into it.
Here we go again. Allons-y. Look at you. Why can't I meet a decent species? Planet of the pudding brains.
The debut of the new black queer Doctor Who, played by Ncuti Gatwa, faces divisive reactions due to criticisms of overshadowing Gatwa with the return of David Tennant's character and implying coexistence of doctors, raising concerns about Gatwa's role ownership.
Yeah, it makes no sense for there to be 2 doctors in the same timeline.
Now, there have been some leaks, and we can't confirm whether these are true or not, so there are going to be spoilers potentially, since this is a... But then again, they're leaks. We can't confirm they're true, but there might be spoilers.
But it has been speculated that David Tennant's doctor, that has been cut off from Ncuti Gatwa's doctor, because Ncuti Gatwa's doctor no longer has the quote-unquote emotional baggage of the doctor, which was what made the doctor such a lovable character. David Tennant, now having all of that quote-unquote baggage, is going to become the Valeyard.
Now, for those of you who don't know, the Valeyard was a character in the Doctor's past. In the classic Doctor Who, he was like an evil, warped version of him that was evil, and did show up a couple times. It would not surprise me if that would happen. These are just leaks. We don't know for certain. What I do know is they are playing up this Doctor a lot. And one of the things that I've actually seen going around, which actually will be surprising to you, is that Disney purposely, because Disney is the people who distribute this now, make no mistake.
Unfortunately.
Disney purposely did not push the 60th specials and are going to, the Disney era of Doctor Who is going to officially start with Ncuti Gatwa. They're planning to push it a lot more.
Oh, of course they are.
I don't really know what that means. Take it as you will. I think the whole bi-generation thing, and if you don't know about that already, you'll see it in the image. David Tennant splits into Ncuti Gatwa, so there's 2 of them now. I think it's really dumb.
It makes no sense.
If it's a way of bringing in the Valeyard, I guess it kind of works. The problem is you don't have to put all this garbage and junk into Doctor Who to make it work. I know people will say, but Doctor Who's always been woke. It's always been progressive. Yes, but it was never in your face. It was always something that was done subtly, done well, that worked with the story. Yes, during Capaldi's era, there were some moments that were a little bit more, hammered home, so to speak.
And I think the biggest example we can all think of is Madame Vastra and Jenny.
That's a good example.
Yes, as an interspecies lesbian couple that actually worked.
Yes, and it worked because, again, they did it and it wasn't in your face and they didn't make a big deal about it. I honestly think if you had taken and made the Star Beast just a regular Doctor Who episode and then followed it up with Wild Blue Yonder and took out the weird line about him being gay and whatever, and then just had, instead of him bi-generating, just had Ncuti Gatwa take over, I think they would have actually won a lot of fans back.
Personally, I prefer your idea of Jodie Whittaker being the Valeyard.
I prefer my idea for the giggle, which would have made it that David Tennant regenerated not because of the
Laser?
The toy maker, but because of Wilf. And because, unfortunately, Bernard Cribbins passed away, we only got that one scene from him in Wild Blue Yonder, and they reused a voice line from him in the giggle. But it would have been cool to kind of have where he passed away, and maybe before the Doctor regenerated, he would tap 4 times.
Yeah, he wanted them to actually be at his grave at his funeral.
It would have made the episode a lot more emotionally gripping, and I think it would have been something that would have made it a little bit more of a mournful passing, but it would have been like, okay, Wilf's gone, it's time for me to go now.
Yeah. Sigh.
We didn't get that. The giggle was weird. I'm not that interested in what's going on with Doctor Who at this point. We'll still keep chronicling its demise, but honestly, there was a good show here, and I think Ncuti is actually has the right energy for the Doctor.
He does, but where they're going with it is not right for the Doctor.
And doesn't let Ncuti shine as he should on his own.
Indeed.
It's a shame we won't get to see that, but...
Oh well.
Come on, Pig! Piggy! Come on, Piggy! See?
Come on, quit eating! Let's get out of here!
Mark Waid dismisses Mark Millar's call to root out comic book cancel pigs, labeling it a cry for attention and falsely characterizing its supporters as the alt-right, as the veteran comic book writer engages in a heated online debate over the industry's challenges and criticism.
And I love the meme that Cancel Pigs has become.
It's not just a meme, it's true.
I know.
These people behave like pigs and they cancel anybody who doesn't have an opinion. Now, to give a recap very quickly for those who have not been following, how this all started was a comic store owner named Glenn O'Leary made a video. He makes a bunch of videos for his channel, but a clip of him went viral where he was basically saying that the reason comics were no good now was because that many characters write themselves as the characters rather than actually writing the character they're paid to write. Now, a lot of people had problems with this. Now, Mark Millar actually liked what he had to say and had him on his show and interacted also with Ethan Van Sciver. And because of that, it became this whole big hullabaloo where they're all trying to cancel Mark Millar now, which isn't really working. I want to point out that none of them have ever really refuted Glenn's take. And he is right, but he's also incorrect in one aspect.
Please tell us what that is.
The aspect he's not right in is, yes, they need to write the characters they're paid to write. But every character has some influence from the writer who's creating it. They shouldn't fully insert themselves into the character, but they should use anything that they can to benefit the character or benefit what's already written from their life. That is a different story.
I mean, as a writer, I can completely agree with that. And I absolutely hate self-inserts with a passion, almost as much as I hate the sound of music.
Now, here we have Mark Waid, and Mark Waid jumped into the fray and basically said something that basically was saying how, Mark Millar is falling star, which again, for those who don't know, Mark Millar is one of the people involved. He created Kick-Ass.
That's why the name was so familiar to me.
And a bunch of other franchises, and he's doing very well, and he's got like a Netflix deal and all this kind of stuff.
Good for him.
So this guy claiming that is laughable because I don't think Mark Waid has gotten much work in the past couple years either.
I mean, I certainly don't recognize his name.
I do, but again, it's not something you think about now because it's something that, again, he hasn't gotten a lot of work. But one of the things that's important to point out here is he's going about how people are saying comics are dying, but they've always been dying and everything's been fine. But I think one of the most important things to point out about what he said was right here. He was responding to someone where he said, I think a lot of us would rather see the industry burn down than, quote, get together with the alt-right. I know I would. Sorry. Let's stop right there. First off, not everybody who doesn't like the current comics is alt-right. Second, you're basically saying that rather than try to meet people halfway, you'd rather the entire industry burns down because you're petty and don't want to listen to people who have different opinions from you.
Sounds like someone is squealing like a pig. A cancel pig. Oink, oink. Where's the blue hair?
I don't know. I just don't understand. Look, I get it. Some people like the comics, some people don't. Some people, whatever, fine. Nobody can argue that the industry is not doing well. You can't pretend that it's doing well when all the evidence shows otherwise. Are there people who still read the current comics? Yes.
But they are few and far between because the classic stuff, the original stuff, the stuff that's actually good, is what sells, because the stuff that is good because no writer self-inserts themselves into said character. I really hate that they do that!
I want to also mention that claiming things are doing well because the numbers of units shipped is disingenuous because it's the numbers sold that should be the most important thing. Regardless, the fact that these people continue to squeal like little pigs and deflect from any kind of criticism, but again, can't actually dispute any of the points, says a lot about the current comic industry as a whole.
I'd say let's make bacon out of them, but we keep kosher.
Hey, it's fakin'.
But
I was scared of the original cartoon. I think I watched it once and then I never picked it up again. Like, I'm being so serious. I watched it once and then I went on the ride in Disney World, which was called Snow White's Scary Adventures. Doesn't sound like something a little kid would like. Was terrified of it. Never revisited Snow White again. So I watched it for the first time in probably 16, 17 years.
I mean, much like Hunger Games, there's just a very dedicated group of people who love Disney cartoons. I'm one of them. You know, I love everything that the Disney company has put out in the past million years, 100 years.
Liar!
Disney's Snow White star, Rachel Ziggler, reverses her woke criticism of the 1937 original movie, expressing newfound appreciation after facing backlash for her comments and the controversy surrounding the diverse casting of the Seven Dwarfs in the upcoming live-action remake.
oh, I love karma.
So this was an actor-on-actors thing where they had Rachel Ziggler and Halle Bailey together, Halle Bailey being the new live-action Little Mermaid.
Yes, and I want to know, why is Halle wearing a sack?
A lot of people were saying, I don't understand why she's wearing a towel, but whatever.
It's a sack.
We don't have any idea about this kind of fashion stuff, so I'm just going to ignore that.
Yes, I prefer my fashion to be respectable and classic.
Yeah.
I.e. goth fashion.
Really? Behave.
No.
Okay, so let's talk about this. So people who know by now, I'm sure everybody knows, but I'll give a brief recap. Rachel Ziggler said some things about how the new Snow White, she's not going to be waiting for a prince to save her, and that it's problematic that she's like in love with a stalker and all this stuff. Then she changed course when she got tons of backlash for it, which we have to recognize again. She changed course much later. This was not as recent as people like to think it is, because it got picked up again when there were the strikes going on, and that's why it became viral. It was not something she said more recently.
True. But she's now suddenly saying that she's a fan of everything Disney has ever done and loves the original Snow White movie, when we all had clearly heard her say, in something that actually sounded more genuine, that she hated the movie as a kid.
She even mentioned she hated the ride because it was Snow White's Scary Adventures and she hadn't watched the movie again until she took the role. Again, nobody's saying there's a problem with her being honest. The problem is there is a certain professional attitude that you need to have when you're in the Hollywood circle, and she does not have it.
No, she is petty, stuck up, obnoxious, and just downright annoying.
Yeah, and again, now she's deflecting and saying how, oh, people are probably having a bad day and we just don't bother the haters. You mean the same haters that you respond to on Twitter all the time? Don't think we don't see you. I've seen you respond to them.
Indeed he has.
Which means you do look and you do have problems. And again, it's okay to be upset by what people say, but own it.
My husband sees all that goes on Twitter.
I don't like to think of it that way. I'm just observant. Maybe it's just part of being a therapist. But the point I'm making here is, Rachel, this message goes out to you. You probably will never see this, but hey, you like listening to people you don't like, so maybe you will. The reason people have a problem with you is because of your behavior and your lack of ownership of the behavior.
Yes, you are taking no responsibility, and it shows.
And that's the biggest problem. If you just said, yeah, you know, I made some statements, I got in the heat of the moment, and I said some things that I probably shouldn't have, and I watched the movie, and I actually didn't hate it as much as I thought I would, and I apologize to anybody who I offended. That's all you would need to do. It wouldn't make everything go away, but it would make a lot more people be willing to actually watch what you're in, and a lot more people actually might give you more fans.
Indeed, it might earn you some respect, what little you already have.
We're not talking about the people who have your image as their profile picture, their name on Twitter exactly the same as you, and go around whatever. We know that those are either paid or bots. Sorry, you can dispute it all you want, but that's what it is.
It totally is, especially because they all say the same exact thing over and over and over with the same GIF, the same picture, the same grammar even.
The point I'm making is all of this could have been avoided, but instead you doubled down, and now all the news about you is about how you're changing course. You can't change course without acknowledging what you did that went wrong. If you had just said, hey, I said some things in the heat of the moment, and I'm changing my mind, I realize how important it is, and I want to do the best I can, you would win so many people over, but you can't do that because your ego's too big, and that's the biggest problem. You have a huge ego and a huge mouth, and it's getting you into trouble. Maybe you should close it.
I mean, her mouth is pretty big and loud.
All you had to do was show some humility, and because you can't do that, you're in this mess. And so I think maybe you should take a step back and look at things with a more critical eye. You won't do that, but that would be my advice to you. You could win so many people back by just showing that you're a genuine human being.
Which we all know you're not.
Why don't you have a seat?
Because this isn't a therapy session. I'm just asking you what people in your racket say about handling this particular situation.
And now it is time for the diagnosis of the week.
Where we diagnose the week with a mental illness.
Because someone has to.
And we have an interesting diagnosis for you this week.
Do tell.
So the diagnosis for this week is online disinhibition effect.
Please explain.
So online disinhibition effect is a concept that describes the phenomenon where individuals exhibit behaviors in an online environment that they wouldn't typically engage in face-to-face interactions. This effect was introduced by psychologist John Ziggler in the early 2000s and is part of his research on the psychology of online interactions.
In relation to today's topics, the introduction of Ncuti Gatwa's new Doctor Who in the 60th anniversary special, marked by questionable decisions and racist tropes, exemplifies the online disinhibition effect as fans express discontent with the casting choices and portrayal.
Mark Waid, dismissing Mark Millar's criticism of cancel pigs in comics as a cry for attention, labeling supporters as the alt-right, illustrates the online disinhibition effect, showcasing extreme online behavior.
And finally, Zegler's flip-flop on Disney's Snow White, from rejecting to embracing the 1937 classic, mirrors the online disinhibition effect where extreme online views shift under real-world scrutiny.
You know how people say that a lot of people wouldn't say certain things online if they were in person? This is basically what this effect is. You will sometimes say things you feel more bold or whatever, and again, I can't say that I'm not guilty of that and that everybody isn't guilty of that. But I think that Hollywood, in order to get better, needs to, get a hold of this, because until they do, they're going to keep having actors and actresses who just step in it, and it's not doing them any favors. So all you have to do is take a step back sometime and ask, is what I'm saying, is what I'm doing something that I would do in person? And if not, then maybe it's better not to say it, or maybe even to come out and say, hey, I was in the heat of the moment, like I suggested. But we'll see this a lot more in Hollywood because it's their favorite go-to tactic. We see it all the time. They jump straight in and just get lost in their own egos, and they say things they would never actually say in real life. A lot of these people probably aren't as bad as you think they are, but that's why I think this is a great diagnosis for this week.
I agree.
That is all we have for this week. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and also make sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe with notifications on so you do not miss your weekly therapy session.
Or you will be charged.
Feel free to join the channel or leave us a super thanks. Any money contributed to the channel is going to be used for the channel.
And also feel free to check out all of the links in the description below.
But for now, Gothic Therapy out.